Yeah. Wait a moment. Just unmute myself. Mute. And for those who are online, maybe you can stay tuned at 8 p.m. because we'll start on time. So just invite all your friends, share the post, invite your friends to join us today because we have a lot of young activists or young leaders from different countries. Yeah. So just share the post. Thank you. And you may just comment or you any question that you want to raise up to any panelists at the comment section.
The stream gonna be from Record Media, right? Page.
Yes, correct. And actually, it's live right now, but we'll start on 8 p.m. We'll start on 8 p.m. Oh, I mean, 8 p.m. is in Malaysia time. Okay, in Malaysia time is GMT 0000. Wait a moment. Was any question? Oh, starting in 1 minute. In 1 minute. Actually, I'm in my office. Thirty seconds, and we shall live. We shall start. Okay, we shall start right now because it's 8 p.m. already. So for those who are online today, so please share the post to your friend in your social media. Just let everyone know because today Record Media is having four panelists from different countries. Yeah, so before I start, just welcome everyone to today Record Media live session. And today we are meeting with as you can see, the face, the young face. Okay, we have meeting with all the young activists from different countries, and we know actually why we set to this topic because we know that youth activism is on the rise around the globe. Like when we say fighting for the cause of climate justice, we know the icon which is Greta Thunberg, and there are a lot of groups who are also fighting for climate justice. And last year, it is even a rise on activism or demonstration all around the world. Like in Hong Kong, we have anti-exploitation bill, and in Indonesia, we also have a group of students who are fighting for their political freedom. And yeah, and the others were fighting for economic changes or anything. And but today, this week, we are going to discuss is on the topic of the freedom. So freedom is a concept that we practice in our life, is in our community, and there are many ways on looking at it, defining it, and also living out freedom. And we thought we could hold this conversation so that we could understand more about how people define the freedom. So today we have 4 different panelists from different countries, and let us introduce themselves first. We have Ahmad from Indonesia. Hi, Ahmad. Say hi to to the audience. And we have Arthur from Ukraine. Hi, Arthur. We have Zach from from Australia. Hi, Zach. And we have Zoe from Hong Kong. Hi, Zoe. So without further delay, maybe we can straight away start with our session today. So I would like to invite Arthur to give out to become the first panelist to give about his speech. And maybe Arthur, can you tell us about yourself and what inspired you to join the activism? Arthur, please.
Yeah, hello guys, really nice to meet you all, and thank you guys who are watching right now. So I really would be brave about myself because I'm just a president of Liberal Democratic League of Ukraine, which is actually, let's say, one of the most active liberal youth organization in Ukraine. And about my personal experience in activism, well, I think activism is the first step to the real politics. And I was 7 when I decided to join politics, And as I'm from Ukraine, during my life, I've gone through 2 big movements. Like first one when I was really child, like Orange Revolution in 2004, and the last one when we have Revolution of Dignity, also known as Winter Fire, the main big Ukrainian movement against tyranny, dictatorship, and for our European future. So yeah, after all these changes, when I was 18, I decided to, with other guys, to found our own organization and start to fight for freedom as the main value. And like always when we are talking about freedom value, like for youth and for activism, it's like the main value to Ukrainians. So for me it was necessary, and I did it, and I'm really happy that I could fight and to bring something to the world and to Ukraine both.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Okay, thank you, Arthur. And next we go to Zach. Perhaps Zach can tell us a lot more different, because what he mentioned to me just now, he's doing more like a peacemaker work. So maybe Zach, you can explain a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Zach. I originally come from America, which is why I have this accent. But I'm also Australian now. I've been here for 14 years, and I have spent a lot of years traveling the world, working, doing humanitarian work and doing different types of work with oppressed peoples all over the world, specifically North Africa, Middle East, across Asia. And I think my journey of what inspired me to get involved in what I do a lot of peacemaking and reconciliation work, specifically in Indonesia, but also in other countries, aiming to go straight into conflict areas and help people find ways towards reconciliation and freedom. But my inspiration for getting involved in any of this is deeply personal for me. Coming from a country as a white person with a whole lot of privilege and a lot of pride in where I came from, my community, I grew up thinking we have nothing to learn from anyone else, but everyone needs to learn from us. We have the best culture, we have everything, that was really what I grew up with. And I had a deeply challenging transformation in my life as I spent time with oppressed peoples and people of very different cultures, and seeing a very different perspective on life. I began to be inspired to do what I do, and especially in regards to war and the traumas of communities facing oppression and war and all sorts of other issues. just broke my heart. And so now I do a lot of the work I do out of my own personal challenge in my life of seeing where I needed healing. I needed to change the way I live. I needed to stop being an oppressor. And I'm still on that journey, but I'll tell you more, I guess, later. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. We would like to hear more from you later. Because later you will have much time. Yeah. So the next one, we go to Joey. So Joey, would like to introduce yourself? Hi, Zoe. Can you hear me? Zoe. I think Zoe experienced this. She's disconnect. Okay, never mind. She will join in later, but never mind. We go to Ahmad first. Ahmad from Indonesia. So Ahmad will speak in his native language, Indonesia, bahasa Indonesia. I will translate for him. Okay.
Oke, selamat malam. Saya Ahmad Mufid dari kelompok studi kader Klasika Lampung. Ya, halo.
Kita boleh dengar kamu.
Oke.
Ya, kamu cakap
teman-teman
saja.
sekalian. Oke.
Mhm.
Ya, saya dari Klasika, kelompok studi kader Lampung, Indonesia, sebuah komunitas yang sebagai ruang pendidikan alternatif yang didirikan oleh senior saya, Bang Cepri, sebagai wujud untuk memberikan pendidikan pembebasan kepada setiap mahasiswa-mahasiswa Indonesia yang ada di Provinsi Lampung khususnya, sebab ada begitu banyak praktik dehumanisasi khususnya yang terjadi di dunia pendidikan. Karena hal itu juga ketidaknetralan pendidikan yang hari ini hadir, termasuk di dunia kampus, maka perlu kita memberikan atau membentuk sebuah kelompok. Nah, karena itu saya juga aktif di Klasika sebagai salah satu penggiat untuk mewujudkan pendidikan alternatif dan juga untuk menyampaikan misi visi kemanusiaan yang ingin terus disampaikan. Cukup, Yanko?
Okay, Ahmad, cuma nak confirm sekali lagi sebab kamu cakap grup kamu ada untuk merealisasikan apa kata kebebasan untuk kebebasan kepada pendidikan kan, betul. Dan you also okay, saya bantu kamu translate lah. So what Ahmad said in a very brief idea is sorry. I closed that computer. Okay, what Ahmad said is actually he is from Klasika is his organization, and what his organization do is advocating freedom to education, so that people all around the Indonesia community can get access to education. Okay, is it correct? Yeah, and also what he do is he trying to throughout his activism. Is trying to advocate what we call the humanity values. Yeah. So we will hear from him more later. Okay. So we go to Joey from Hong Kong.
Sure. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
We can hear you.
Yes, sure. So I'm Joey, and I'm a student activist based in Hong Kong. So I'm like many others of my age. We're inspired by the very significant umbrella revolution in 2014. And I believe that is also the reason why many of us at this very young age started our lives as a student activist. And by chance, during May last year, there was the news about the Chinese government trying to introduce the extradition bill in Hong Kong. So I established the anti-extradition bill concerns group in my university. And by chance, I took up the role as the external vice president of my student union. And also later on, we participated in a joint student union delegation, which has been visiting a lot of countries and talking to a lot of politicians around the globe. And we lobbied for global awareness towards the very aggressive expansion of China and also the rise of the Chinese Communist Party. And of course, since last year, we had been calling for different assistance and also different policies to better assist and concern and to help with the situation of Hong Kong right now. And later on this year, I was also appointed the advisor of the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, which is actually an alliance formed by many politicians, including senators from the USA and also senators from Australia. And this is actually a very significant alliance on formulating the policies regarding the expansion of China.
I think Joey is the one of because I'm quite familiar with Hong Kong issue. So what she said just now is very it recalled my memory when I was in Hong Kong. Okay, but maybe we can discuss more later about what I have done. I mean, and perhaps we go to the second session. So we would like to invite Arthur again. So Arthur, just tell us about your activism, like what is ideology and what are you fighting for? And how are you going to accomplish it? Is it through protests or is it through education? And second, because you mentioned just now is your organizing. I mean, the main one very significant protest is the activism is the Winter of Fire that we can see on Netflix. And how do you place that movement? Does it consider success or a failure? And tell us throughout your activism, what is the biggest threat and challenges that you have faced? That you have faced. Okay, and yeah, this is perhaps you can give us some ideas about it. Arthur?
Okay, thank you, Shanka. I'm not sure. Is it? I heard all because it was some connection issues, but I don't understand what you mean. So. Okay, let's talk about what we are fighting for, because ideology is a very big issue in Ukraine, and we still under the question, which kind of ideology would be really nice to Ukraine. But as a president of liberal organization, of course, I'm fighting for liberalism. From my side, it's classical liberalism more, but our organization, really different. I can ask. I think it's very important. Is of course to unite. Is it okay with this connection? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the connection is not very stable. Never mind. You just talk what you have right now. We cannot. Maybe we can deal with it later.
Sorry, please, because from my side, I think it's okay. I see the issue. So right now, is it okay?
Okay. I think we have some. Not really. No,
sorry,
really.
please.
You try again. Is it okay?
So right now it's okay. You could hear me, right?
Yeah, we could hear you. We could hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, please. Some troubles. Yeah. So, and what is very important is to fight for the certain point of ideology, and to find the main ideas we really would unite. Different people. And I think here is the main aspect is freedom, because of course after European Maidan, after Revolution of Dignity, we understood that freedom is our national idea, and we really ought to fight for it. So of course it sounds like we're really fighting for, and say that it's quite successful, because in any case we are getting very new generation, not post-Soviet one, and it's making the fight quite unique, because we are engaged in really different but at the same time young people, like the newest generation, the youngest generation. So it is something we are really proud of. But from other hand, you're asked about how we are approaching it, and here is actually different aspects, because from Ukrainian background, of course, protest is very important, but education is important too. And
Wow. Oh, hi. That means the line is very unstable. That's why Arthur is disconnect already. Never mind. Before we get him back, maybe we straight. He was stream. Okay. Zach, could you go to your part first? Explain what? Hey, Arthur is here again. Arthur is here again. So sorry, guys. To those who are online watching our video, watching our live, is so sorry. There's some technical problem, and Arthur is here. Arthur is back again. Okay.
Okay, should I
Arthur, you
continue
may
or?
continue.
Yes, sorry, because I don't know on which point I have been.
Oh, have you finished? Oh, because just now I'm not sure whether.
Sorry, please. I can't finish my speech due to these technical issues. But like,
Arthur, can you hear us?
I could hear you. Yeah.
You just continue. Yeah. You just continue.
So I could continue. Yeah. So about talking about the protest and education, I think here is what is very important. It's to to mix different approaches and at the same time educate them and of course go to protest, because if you're just educating people and not protesting, not going to street, not using direct democracy, of course in this case we are losing something very important, starting from our own experience as an activist, and also you're losing our image, and if you're just talking about something in a comfortable room, we would never reach real changes. So that is why it is something like very crucial to us, and we are doing it. Talking about the biggest street we faced, of course, I think that it's a really different one. But I think the really big street we have at the moment is, of course, the different legal obstacles we really could have in Ukrainian legislation. Because, as a NGO, we couldn't do real impact. We couldn't run for election as NGO. We have very strict electoral system, and that's why it's making a lot of troubles to young activists who really don't like to deal with old corrupted political parties. Talking about more dangerous issues, like we have a lot of myths about Ukraine that is quite dangerous or something like that. Yeah, of course, we still have ongoing war on the east, and Crimea, Ukraine, Crimea is occupied by Russian military forces. But at the same time, I could say that on the territory fully controlled by Ukrainian government is still quite okay, and we have no real issues there. So probably I couldn't say that we as activists getting really a lot of streets. But from other hand, of course, if we are dealing with corruption issues, we unfortunately could be attacked from the governmental side also. And actually, it's like your last point you mentioned about how we are surviving within the frames of governmental pressure. Of course, the government is still quite corrupted, and we have some very bad ministers who are attacking people and who are kidnapping people. And unfortunately, so far we have very
It's fine because he's going to his last point. And never mind, we just proceed to the second panelist today, Zach. Zach, could you tell us more about like what Arthur did just now? Because you are a little bit different from what we are practicing in activism, because you are trying to settle the conflicts in the war zone, in the conflict zone. So could you tell us more about your work? Because I think a lot of people all around the world, we are not very understand about this. Yeah. And how are you going to inspire us on this? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to share. I deeply care about freedom and seeing all peoples walk in freedom. But what I've experienced in my own life and in lots of situations is that's not the end. Like, freedom is not the end, but peace is something beyond freedom. It's where our relationships are actually whole and right. And a lot of times I think our pursuit of fixing a problem at the moment or seeking a solution to a problem often ends there, that we fix that problem, but it doesn't go beyond to dream beyond that. What if we actually, the people who are our enemies today could be our community and our friends in the future? And in my activism and in what I do, often I'm bringing together two groups who would never, ever imagine that they could actually meet together and find a way forward together in a situation, because they've labeled them as enemies, as tyranny, as all these different things on both sides. That what's amazing is what I've discovered in all this journey for myself and in situations that seem impossible is that it's never actually impossible to have peace. And I think the biggest challenge that we face in all of our work, in activism, in peacemaking, in any issues we find in our communities, whether even in our families, is often a challenge. The challenge is our imagination. People to say, no, that's not possible. No, that can't be. And so we change our views or our plans or our vision to a smaller goal because that seems a little easier to reach. But I would be challenging everyone to dream even bigger. I love Martin Luther King Jr. in my country, in America. His amazing speech is a dream beyond what anyone else could imagine. And that dream is what carried the civil rights movement and still carries it today, because he had enough imagination to go beyond just the problem of the day 50 years ago. But he was dreaming beyond that to a goal that brings everyone together. And I think for me, that's a big challenge we all face, is people saying it's not possible. I mean, that's always the challenge of activism. And for me, I find I go to places, and everywhere I go, people say that can't work here. Don't go to Banda Aceh. Don't go to Ambon. Don't go to Kalimantan. Like they are afraid for me because they think I'm gonna die, or they think it's those people are too crazy, too fundamental, too extremist. And what I find is those places are the easiest places to make peace. People are so not what people think. Where it's very hard to make peace, where it's very hard to break through in freedom, is often the places where people don't think they need anything. There isn't a strong conflict. There isn't, everyone's content with the way things are. And that's where it's hard to make a way forward in a conflict. So I think that's what I have to share.
Okay. Zach, just curious, because you say you are helping people to reconcile and to try
Yes.
to make the peace among them. And is there any successful incident that maybe perhaps can you explain any incident that touched you after a very touchful one? Yeah, after you try to reconcile them.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the most amazing ones is in Ambon. If anyone knows the history of Ambon in the last 20 years, it is an ugly history. Christians and Muslims killing each other, massacring each other, and there's deep pain and fear and suspicion of the other, accusations of horrible things in the past. And we did a peace camp there. We brought young people from all different parts of the conflict together. And they had never, one girl said, I'd never met a Christian in my life. I was always afraid of them. I thought they were all horrible people. And she lives on a small island full of
Mhm.
Christians, but she never crossed the street. Like in the Ambon, you never cross the street. That's how
Mhm.
much their freedom is limited because of the fear of each other. And after a few hours, she was blown away that all of her perspectives had been changed. And a lot of the biggest challenges or limits to our freedom are actually our own fears. And what was amazing was to see at the end of 2 days of a camp with these guys, they all banded together to do their own activism in their own community, in their own culture, reaching out to kids, reaching out to their community, creating events that will help bring healing and change the direction of their communities away from fear and violence back towards unity and a much more healthy future. So that's a story that really touches me, and among many others where people are forgiving each other for horrible atrocities that they've done to each other. Child soldiers forgiving each other from both sides of a war. It's just unbelievable stories of what's really possible if we can imagine a world that where we can all be reconciled with each other. There's really no end to what could be done in our activism or in our lives. So, yeah.
Understand. But perhaps later you can tell us more on how you perceive, because just I agree with you with you always say that the biggest challenge is that people always say impossible to achieve something. Maybe later for your later session you can explain a bit more about how you persuade the people throughout the process. Yeah. Okay. So after that we go to right now we go to Zoe Siu from Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is I think it's very eye-catching incident that happened in Hong Kong, and the world is watching. The world is watching. So, Joey, can you tell us more about your side, and based on the question that I posted out to you, yeah, like about your activism ideology, and how do you place your movement? Does it success or in a failure? Because we see that the CCP has implement Hong Kong security law. Even though in the year before you are fighting to anti-extradition law, but right now it's straight away invade into your political sphere. And then are you still going to stay after?
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Okay, Zoe, can you hear us?
Yes, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah. Is your stage? Yeah.
Sure. So, as you all know, Hong Kong was once a
Hello?
colony occupied.
Can everyone? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you. We can
Yeah.
hear you. Okay, it's your
So, as
stage.
you all know, Hong Kong was once a colony occupied by the British government. And on 1997, Hong Kong was returned to the Chinese government by the British government. But then during the hangover of Hong Kong, we Hong Kong people did not ever get a chance to participate in the discussion or to decide the future of the city. So this is actually it is actually the root cause of so many long-term issues between China and Hong Kong, or even inside our territory. And during the past 23 years, we Hong Kong people are facing a very serious and also very severe erosion from the Chinese Communist Party, where they are trying to erode our core values. They are trying to eliminate the very special values of Hong Kong. And also we can see that our common values of Hong Kong, or even our universally shared values of Hong Kong, are no longer being upheld by the Chinese Communist Party. So we all feel like this is actually a very, very critical moment for Hong Kong people, where we have to stand up, and we have to stand up very firmly against the Chinese Communist Party. And during last year, as I have mentioned in the very beginning part of my speech, the Chinese government tried to introduce the extradition bill in Hong Kong, which actually allows the Chinese government to extradite anybody in Hong Kong or passing through Hong Kong to be back to the mainland China for their judiciary procedures. And we feel like it is actually a direct hit to the core values to the independent judiciary systems in Hong Kong. So we Hong Kong people decided to stand up to the tyranny, and we decided to start our year-long protest against the government and the regime. However, even after the Chinese Communist Party decided to withdraw the extradition bill, they never stopped suppressing the freedom-loving people in Hong Kong. And recently, they have introduced the Hong Kong version of the national security law in our city, which is actually a law that grants the Chinese Communist Party and also the Hong Kong government with the right to arrest anybody, including activists, politicians, or even random protesters in the name of subversion or colliding with foreign forces. It is actually making Hong Kong became another ordinary city in the mainland China. And we felt like it is actually the time where we can no longer back off, or we no longer have the room to bargain or to compromise with the Chinese government. We felt like we have to stand up against the regime very firmly. And about how would I position myself in this leaderless movement, or in nowadays in Hong Kong, we felt like we no longer need a very specific leading activists or politicians to guide us throughout our journey of protesting or fighting against the regime. And I would say I am like the other ordinary protesters, where we all have our own roles to play. And as a student activist, I aim to encourage social participation, especially youth engagement in social movements. And I'm also aiming at promoting the identity as a Hong Konger, because we felt like Hong Kongers is not the same as part of Chinese, because we have a lot of very, very different values. We have different culture, and we grow up under a very different environment and atmosphere. And to accomplish the goal, I have to organize class boycotting campaigns. I have to organize educational seminars and also large-scale assemblies aiming at calling for international assistance to Hong Kongers. And at this very historical moment, where what is happening in Hong Kong is actually affecting Sino-US relationship, or even changing the global political landscape, I felt like I can be doing more by staying in Hong Kong, connecting Hong Kong with the international community, and by projecting the voices of Hong Kong protesters, and also by sharing my first-hand experiences living under tyranny. I could be helping to raise the awareness of the world to be aware of the very dangerous rise and expansion of the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay, thank you, Zoe. But just a few questions for you, because I think a lot of Malaysian audience, Asian, I mean, like they was curious about the Hong Kongers, like the reaction from Hong Kongers, because they think sometimes when we say the government are oppressing us, but at the same time, it seems like there are a lot of violence. We create chaos in Hong Kong, and like. How are you going to defend this? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Hi.
Can you repeat your question again?
Yeah, sure. Because a lot of Malaysian, especially Chinese, they always that people are watching Hong Kong, but there's a very controversy things is that Hong Kongers, when they say the government is oppressing them, but at the same time, it seems like they create a lot of violence, and also they create chaos in the streets. And in fact, they are straight away, I mean, like beat up for those who have a different ideology with them. So how are you going to explain this, and how are you going to defend your stand on this? Is it still legitimate because you already harm people freedom? Because I think this is one of the controversies and happened in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Well, I think of course all of us would like to organize a protest, our assemblies, our social movements in an absolutely peaceful way. But then it is actually seen by the world that it is always the regime, or it is always the police force which is trying to use very abusive and violent ways of to disperse the crowd or to suppress these social movements, which were supposed to be legal and lawful in Hong Kong. And I always felt, and I would always like to tell everybody who are watching Hong Kong or paying attention to protests or social movements around the world that whenever it comes to very large scale, very eye-catching social movements where there might be some like violent or like not so pretty scenes, the first question that should be coming to our mind is always about why are the people protesting? Why are the people going onto the streets protesting against the government? Why are the people taking the risk of being arrested, being beaten up by the police? The first thing that should be coming to our mind is always to reflect on the performance of the governance of the government itself, but not about the way people protest or the way where people defend themselves. So yeah, so that is also the reason why I'm always like feeling welcome to talk to everybody from different countries, from different parties, or from different industries, because I always felt like it is a time for us, or it is always very important for us to bring the attention on the governance or on the performance of the regime itself.
Okay, understand. But because we know that what Hong Kong 5-4 is trying to prevent the political interference or the political intervention from CCP, right? Am I right? So yeah. Then, however, we can see after a year from the anti-extradition bill, then the CCP is implement a new law, the security law. It seems like it's even it can straight away intervene with all the political affairs. And does it really paralyze the whole movement in Hong Kong? And also, what is your strategy? Your strategy next? Because it seems you are facing a very strong and very what we call the tyranny above you. How are you going to strategize your move? Yeah.
Well, I think it is undeniable that the implementation of the national security law is bringing very significant impact to our social movement, and it is also causing a lot of like unprecedented difficulties in Hong Kong. However, we are all trying to explore the possibilities of sustaining our social movement. For example, by organizing the primaries of the Democratic camp so that we can fight for a goal of winning half of the seats in the Legislative Council election in September. And also we have been trying to organize general strikes. Student unions have been thinking about what campaigns we can do inside campus to defend our freedom of speech and also our academic freedom. And I have to say it is a very hard time for protesters and also activists in Hong Kong, but then we are trying our very best to find new ways and explore new possibilities of sustaining it. And of course, the national security law is again bringing up the red line, and none of us know where is the red line. We never know when will we be arrested under the name of subversion. We don't know whether, I mean, even for talking to you guys, it could be leading me to the name of like colliding with foreign forces. But then we have to try and we have to fight until our last breath. So I believe it is not only me, but also the other protesters. We will all try to fight even under this very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, it's very disheartening when we see what experience faced by Hong Kongers. So never mind, we can talk more later. So due to the time constraint, maybe right now we just pose the question to Ahmad. So Ahmad, boleh kamu dengar saya?
Oke, Janko,
Ahmad,
dengar.
Oke, boleh kan? Oke, ya, boleh kamu bagi tahu lebih kepada apa yang kamu buat dalam organisasi kamu dan macam mana kamu nak mencapai ideologi yang kamu lawan, okay? Dan adakah dia true dari segi kamu pergi protes ke atau kamu pergi membuat pendidikan secara asas dan secara apa kata akad umbi Ya. Dan macam mana kamu apa kata? Macam mana kamu letak organisasi kamu dalam posisi mana? Adakah kamu dah apa kata? Dah berjaya ataupun dah gagal dalam segi ini, dalam segi apa purpose kamu? Okay, and apa yang masalah yang terbesar yang kamu apa kan melalui dalam proses ini? Ya, boleh kamu bagi tahu kita semua?
Oke. Sorry teman-teman sekalian, sorry I speak in Indonesia. Jadi berbicara tentang kebebasan, seperti yang sudah saya sampaikan di awal tadi, saya juga dari Klasika, sebuah pendidikan alternatif yang konsennya adalah sebagai pendidikan pembebasan. Halo?
Ahmad, itu bunyi kamu sangat halo, boleh kamu dengar? Mungkin kamu boleh cabut headphone kamu tak? Cabut headphone kamu.
Halo.
Sebab terlalu bising di belakang, ya. Halo, boleh dengar?
Sudah.
Oh, sebab dia agak bising di belakang, macam satu suara yang sangat
berdekatan ya.
Ya. Ya. Tapi kamu teruskan sajalah.
Suara?
Halo?
Halo?
Halo? Halo?
Masih ya? Yanke? Masih bising? Masih bising?
Ya, masih bising. Tak apa, saya mungkin di sekeliling kamu lah agak bising. Tak tahu apa tu. Mungkin kipas ke apa ke. Dah okey. Sekarang dah okey.
Oke.
Okey, yuk teruskan.
Masih ya berisik.
Ahmad, mungkin kamu boleh try untuk adjust untuk mic kamu dulu, boleh? Try adjust dulu. Nanti kita kembali kepada kamu.
Oke.
Boleh tak? Okay, you try cari satu kawasan yang lebih senyap sikit. Okay. Oh, so sorry guys. I'm because I think every one of us hear the quite irritating sounds behind. I think it's the background sounds. We can't identify what was it. Okay. But never mind. Ahmad will come back to us later. Perhaps we go to the second session. We try to discuss more about our topic today. Okay. So Arthur, so it's your turn now. So can you, based on your experience, why do you think that freedom is very important to us, to the human, to all human beings, and how the freedom is going to shape the society? And perhaps you can try to elaborate more on this. And
yeah, thank you very much. Yes, sorry please for my previous issues with technical part. And talking about freedom, of course, it is something very significant. And here is I really need to back to my Ukrainian perspective and our Ukrainian past, because for 17 years my country was occupied by the Soviet Union, by communists, and this experience is absolutely terrible to my people and to my country. And it's something very important when I'm talking with different foreigners, moreover from the pro-democracy bloc which exists during the previous Cold War. And it's something from time to time, people from the West couldn't understand that when you're under the occupation of communists, it's something like when you're under occupation of Nazis. And for our people, and for all Eastern European region, the fight for freedom is something we are doing for all this time, for 100 years. And right now, when we are fighting against Russian military forces, and not just military forces, also propaganda and hybrid war, because we know that the methods how the authoritarian regimes are acting right now is quite different from what it was before, like 15 years ago or something like that. So right now, like every media news or news for media or something like that always could be a source or the tool how to attack the freedom in your country. And it's making us understand that we really need to fight for it. And we need to fight for it not just here in Ukraine, but also globally, because the issue of freedom is very connected globally, worldwide. And once we are acting here in Ukraine, it could go somewhere very, very far away overseas. Like we could see some influence of our previous movement. I mean, like Revolution of Dignity in Venezuela, or of course in Hong Kong. And it's a very, very significant point, because once we are starting to fight for freedom in our own country, we are starting to fight for freedom all over the globe. Now, if we are not understanding it, we could do some mistakes and don't take into account some issues which could be very crucial to our understanding of the fight. I think freedom is, like a part of us, a part of our soul, a part of our hands or legs or something like that, and it's our responsibility to protect it. If we are losing freedom, we are losing the main sense after the fact we are human beings, that we are alive. So talking about freedom, yeah, I think it's something very meta philosophical, and what we really need to fight for. Yanke? Okay, you could hear me, guys, right? Yeah. Okay, so maybe once we are waiting for Yankee, I could finish the topic because, like, we have discussed before about the issue of Cold War and New Cold War in the world, because I think we are one step away from the new Cold War between, let's say, new Soviet bloc between China, Russia, maybe Venezuela and the regime of Maduro and other regimes somewhere in Central Asia and in Africa. And unfortunately, it is something what we really need to understand, because the globalism, the pure globalism, unfortunately right now under attack of these authoritarian regimes of China and Russia. They're trying to use our global values of freedom, of free trade, and other very nice issues to their own, to their own, and to use our high values of freedom against us. And we need to really prevent it. We need to be actual, and that's why we, as a free countries, free people, really ought to be united in the fight against global totalitarianism, because it doesn't matter is it Russian government or Chinese government or somewhere else. The sense of these anti-democratic movements are the one, and I think it is and due to the reason, we have some issues in Europe, in the Western Europe, when, not just Western, worldwide, that, for example, some far populists are having a lot of support for these non-democratic states like Russia and China. Yanka, are you with us right now?
Yeah.
Great.
Just now I was disconnected again. Anyway, I'm not sure whether you have talked about just now.
I finished on the Cold War.
Okay. So do you think we should take a stand? Like every country should take a stand? But the problem is when we say we are experiencing a Cold War era, but people tend to see government take the role. but not the people. But can you give us some advice that, like for the grassroots people, what can we do in this new Cold War era? Yeah, besides relying on government to pressure on dictators or for those what we call the Communist Party. Yeah.
First of all, I think the stance in Cold War, it's about our personal responsibility and how we are really ready to fight against global totalitarian regimes and how we are countering it. Because, you know, it was not so far away from my country when we was from on other side, I mean, like on the bad side during the Cold War. And I think if the global world would be more active against Soviet Union before, maybe Ukraine would be liberated earlier. That is why I think, of course, we should be ready to join the fight and be ready to, you know, lose some privileges we have at the moment, like free travel somewhere to China or to Russia. I don't know, but to be honest, we know that there are no free travel anymore, and every person who would be on the border of this country could be arrested and kidnapped. And you know, like that, for example, Russia implemented, not implemented, like they presented own version of the national security law, like China did for Hong Kong, because right now Russia is proposing to make a 10 years jail sentence to every person in the world extraterritorially who are there to fight to back Crimea to Ukraine. And I think all these tendencies making us more united in the fight, and we should be ready to join it and not to be afraid of this hard words like Cold War. Yes, it is Cold War, it is already exists. And if some governments think that they could secure own free trade or economics or own people from this now communist bloc, of course they're making a big mistake, because you remember 17 years ago when some countries tried to play with Hitler allies and actually this ideology and how it gone before. So I mean, it is something very dangerous to play with dictators and to try to build normal kind of relations with them. We should be ready to counter it together and, you know, like to say where is the black side and where is the white side.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Arthur. Sorry, I think I missed your part again because I was
sorry, please. Yeah.
I think it's.
But I think I finished. Yeah.
Yeah. You finished. But I think access to internet is one of the human rights that we should fight for in future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. Just continue. Yeah. So currently, maybe we just proceed with Ahmad, because just now, because due to some interruption from the background sounds. So right now, we would like to invite Ahmad to give some of his opinion on to introduction about his organization and what do he do in the past until right now. Okay, Ahmad, boleh kamu teruskan kepada sekarang sesi kamu, boleh kamu teruskan. Nanti you cakap seperenggan, nanti saya akan translate. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Janko. Terima kasih. Tadi pertanyaan awal dari Yanke terkait ideologi apa sih sebenarnya yang diperjuangin oleh saya juga teman-teman sekalian. Yang pertama tentunya ideologi kemanusiaan, dan pijakannya juga terkait dengan pendidikan. Sebab dehumanisasi juga terjadi di wilayah pendidikan. Ada begitu banyak praktik-praktik dehumanisasi yang menghilangkan nilai-nilai kemanusiaan yang ada dalam dunia pendidikan. Nah, Klasika sebagai ruang pendidikan alternatif berusaha untuk mewujudkan pendidikan humanis, sebuah pendidikan pembebasan juga, yang salah satu kacamatanya juga menggunakan Paulo Freire sebagai alternatif untuk mengimbangi dan merawat nalar kritis mahasiswa ataupun pemuda-pemuda di Lampung khususnya. Sebab hari ini kapitalisme juga yang pengaruh kapitalisme yang telah masuk ke dalam dunia pendidikan telah membuat nalar kritis dan kebebasan dalam diri setiap individu khususnya mahasiswa
Okay.
Semakin sempit.
Boleh saya translate?
Oke,
Boleh saya
silakan.
translatekan? Okay. Jadi, just now what Ahmad said is because currently we can see freedom to education is being eroded. Especially we are in a capitalist world, and we can see how they monetize the education, and then also what we are going to do is they not only eroded the education, but also like the students are tends to be not critical do more critical thinking. Perhaps Ahmad, you can continue, then I translate for you later. Yeah.
Halo.
Teruskan.
Oke. Ya, kapitalisme yang telah masuk ke dalam dunia pendidikan tentunya kan membuat atau merasuki kepala setiap individu atau setiap mahasiswa ataupun pemuda, yang kemudian pada akhirnya sulit untuk memperjuangkan misi pembebasan yang lebih besar. Sementara itu kita tahu ada begitu banyak tindakan intoleransi, dehumanisasi ataupun kebebasan yang mulai terancam baik dalam sebuah negara, termasuk mungkin di teman-teman sekalian yang di Ukraina maupun dan yang lain-lain. Salah satu alternatifnya memulainya dengan mendirikan pendidikan alternatif. Nah, itulah salah satu misi klasika sebenarnya, Yanke dan teman-teman sekalian.
Okay.
Misi perjuangannya melalui.
Okay. Do you need me to translate again? Okay. So what Kasika do is his organization is like organizing an alternative education for the people, because you tend to see the current education has been like just now what he proposed is that it eroded by the idea of capitalism, like people so they are trying to do more grassroots education on this. Ya, Ahmad, teruskan.
Oke. Nah, praktik pembebasannya ya juga melalui aksi-aksi di jalanan juga pernah dilakukan dan sering dilakukan. Selain itu juga melalui tulisan-tulisan dan juga klasika seperti yang sudah kita bincang di grup. Ada kelas mondok, kelas 40 hari yang membincang pemikiran-pemikiran dari barat, timur, seluruh pemikiran-pemikiran dan ideologi untuk membebaskan kepala setiap individu dari belenggu pendidikan kapitalis yang berorientasi pada kerja. Silakan Yanke.
Okay, so what he said is when we are in a capitalist world, people just thinking after graduate they are just going to apply for the job, they just work, and they don't understand what is the meaning of the life. They don't understand what is the meaning of the what we call the purpose of the education. So what Kasika is doing is they try to liberate the mind from the capitalism. Yeah. Okay, Ahmad.
Oke. Terakhir, apa yang sebenarnya membuat teman-teman klasika ataupun saya juga yang lainnya tetap teguh mengambil jalan atau jalur yang berbeda dengan mengkampanyekan kebebasan, kemanusiaan, dan keadilan? Salah satunya adalah untuk menciptakan kemungkinan-kemungkinan. Nah, ada tindakan membincang kebebasan, pasti ada sesuatu yang tidak bebas yang berusaha atau berupaya untuk dibebaskan. Nah, memulai hal-hal yang besar, kalau kami dari Klasika juga memulainya dari prinsip-prinsip yang mungkin, memulai dari yang mungkin dan sangat bisa dilakukan untuk melakukan misi pembebasan yang besar tentunya, baik melawan Tyranny yang terus menghantui setiap kita. Di samping itu juga pastinya untuk
melawan apa?
Ya.
Melawan apa? Melawan apa?
Halo, Yanto.
Oh ya, saya kata melawan apa? You cakap sebab
melawan segala macam bentuk penindasan, baik tirani, otoriter, totaliter, dan yang lain-lain lah, yang tentunya sangat mengancam kemerdekaan dan kebebasan setiap individu sebagai manusia tentunya.
Okay. What Kasika fighting for is they are focusing on individual rights and they are focusing on individual freedom because there are a lot of threats, maybe from tyranny, for the authoritarian government. So what they do is to try to preserve the difference in each individuals and also and try to uphold the values of humanity, justice, and and freedom. Yeah. Ya,
Terakhir, terakhir yang menjadi cita-cita teman-teman Klasika adalah memerdekakan akal atau membebaskan kebebasan berpikir kepada setiap individu yang kemudian ketika kita membincang terminologi kebebasan, maka yang paling dekat adalah kebebasan untuk menentukan pilihan dan sikap. Nah, kebebasan menentukan pilihan dan sikap ini yang coba terus untuk dirawat dan dicita-citakan. Artinya setiap kita mengambil keputusan, setiap kita mengambil tindakan, tidak serta-merta mengikuti arus yang berjalan. Jadi kita punya dasar yang kuat untuk mengambil setiap keputusan. Sebagaimana kita lihat kalau dalam
diteruskan, maaf.
Oke. Nah, sebagaimana kan kita tahu, misalnya kita menggunakan skema Althusser ketika negara juga tidak bisa berbuat apa-apa terhadap kekuasaan, terhadap kapitalisme dan yang lain-lain. Ada sebuah otoritas besar yang menguasai sebuah negara, maka cita-citanya memulainya dari bawah, dari akar rumput, memulai penyadaran dari bawah untuk memulai dan melakukan sebuah pembebasan yang besar pastinya di kemudian hari.
Okay, so what Ahmad told is the last that they're fighting for is they want the people to know that they have the freedom to choose. They have the freedom to choose and they have to be responsible for their choice. Yeah, and because sometimes the education tends to shape the people mind, it tends to shape the people ideology, but without giving you a choice, right? So what Klasika do is, besides liberating their mind, they tell the people that actually you have a freedom to choose what is the pathway you want to go for. Okay, is it ada ke semua itu macam tu saja, Ahmad?
Cukup sementara, Yanko.
Okay, terima kasih Ahmad. Thank you Ahmad, and thank you Ahmad for introducing for his organization. So right now we go for Zach. So Zach, could you tell us more about your experience? Based on your experience, like just now you said, how are you going to persuade the people to let them think that it is possible to achieve something? It is possible to achieve peace. And it is possible to solve the conflicts. And why do you think, in your opinion, why the freedom is very important, and how it's going to shape our society? And perhaps maybe I think you have a lot of experience dealing with different kind of government. If those government are authoritarian, so what kind of measure or approach that you can take to fight for your cause when you are facing this kind of threats? And and the last one is, how do you think that what kind of role that youth should take in order to change the current political climate? Yeah. Okay, especially like populist. Yeah. Okay.
I will try my best. Before I share though, I just want to thank you guys, Arthur, Joey, and Ahmad. You guys are amazing. And it's an honor to be on this call with you. And I'm learning from everything you're sharing. Thank you so much. It's inspiring me. In regards to freedom, I had a few thoughts around this, and I don't know if I'm right or not. You know, I feel like I'm always learning, and I look forward to learning more. But I think of a few things when I think of freedom. Freedom is absolutely necessary for everything that is good in our lives, and especially for a relationship. You cannot have relationship without freedom. It's otherwise you become a puppet, or you become slave or something, but you can't have the things that we really value in our lives, like good friends, good family, love, and all the things that are intangible in our lives are built on the premise that we have freedom. And so it is absolutely imperative that we promote freedom in every area of the world in every way. And that is true. But also, I feel torn a little bit when we talk about promoting freedom, because as much as freedom is important for all of us to have the choice and have relationships, there's also the other side of freedom, which is that most things that are truly valuable in our lives require giving up freedom. And that is what we call morality. And so I could do anything I want and be with anyone I want in my life, but I have chosen to marry my wife and to have my children. And by choosing that, I end up with a very fulfilling life by choosing to limit my freedom. Whereas if I am free to do many other things with my life, but they can be very immoral. I can commit crimes, I can kill people, I can do lots of things, but that is not what we want in our world, is people just doing anything they want. We want people to be free, but then to choose to limit their freedom so that they are loving the others around them and living in a way that is healthy for the community and all their relationships. And so I've been thinking about that as we talk. I think when I think about activist movements and this real fight against tyranny, we need to be very careful about our own hearts as we approach our battle, because it's so tempting when one side, when the authority is doing things of violence or doing immoral actions to limit people's freedom. It's very tempting for many movements throughout history to then do whatever they want to get the power back from the authoritarian or totalitarian government. But the problem is that often what you see is that those movements that overthrew a government end up being just as brutal and as authoritarian as the government that they overthrew. And I think what is really important in our talking about freedom and our seeking a better place for our nations, for our communities, that we don't choose to fight in the same way that the authoritarian and totalitarian governments fight. That although they may kill us, we will like maybe they will kill, but we will protect life. Maybe they will limit people's freedom, but we will listen. They will, whichever way that they fight, we need to be careful to operate in morality. And then we will have a truly powerful movement. But, and the result will be something truly beautiful. But if we decide to take a shortcut and use a little bit extra force, or do a little bit of not so good things to force them to listen or things, you'll get a quick result, but you won't get a transformative result. And that's why I do what I do, and I think it goes hand in hand with a lot of activism. Is I'm always promoting freedom for all groups, but I'm also challenging us to be activists who walk out our activism in a way that is actually transformative and not just something that can be quickly turned into another authoritarian movement. So I'm trying to think, what was the other question? Oh yes, there's that one. You're asking me how do people get involved, and I was thinking about youth getting involved. A lot of what I do is with youth, and my question or my answer is I don't have an answer for everyone in the world on what they should do for their authoritarian, oppressive situations. My number one rule is that I don't know what that person needs if I don't even know their name. And neither do any of us. We don't know. I don't know what Hong Kong needs because I don't know the people and the culture and the history and all the things. I am not from Hong Kong, but I trust and I empower my friends in every situation they are in to be the leaders and to choose what they think is best for their community. And that might be in a village on a small island in Indonesia, or it might be my friends in Afghanistan. Everyone has a different response to the oppression that they face. And we need to empower the local people to take the stands that they think are the right stands for their community, for their lives. And that's very important, especially as foreigners working in a community, that we do not assume we know the answer for freedom for them, but we support them in finding their own way, in doing their own activism. And so for me, that's what I do mostly is I'm trying to empower the people in the situation to find their own solutions and to walk that out at their own journey and their own methods. And I think that is the only way that I could answer that question of whether someone should stand up against something or not. I really don't know who you are or what your situation is or what that means to you. So, but I support you in finding a way forward. And in regards to youth getting involved, and sorry, there's a question on the screen. Community.
That means how do you suggest our youth today to be actively involved to understand the youth? Because I might
have an opinion on this that is different from the others, and I'm okay with that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I have worked a lot with youth over a long time, and I think in some ways, not in every way, but in some ways, it is a Western colonizing perspective that focuses on the youth. And in a lot of history, a lot of Western countries, to dominate other countries, they knew that if they went to the older people, it would be very difficult to get power and get control. But when you look at children, it's very easy. They're very easily influenced, and they can be changed. And if you can turn the children against their parents, you could really have a lot of power in a place. And that's not always true, like of everything, but I feel like my experience of empowering youth, I love to empower youth. I think youth are so amazing in every way, but I'm very aware that in the West, we don't have eldership. We don't have systems in our communities of levels of social hierarchy and different things. And so it's always exciting to go get the youth, and the youth are passionate. They want to run ahead without ever knowing what's gone before. We like to run fast, and we judge the previous generation and say they have nothing to teach us. But what I would say I'm promoting at the moment is the true transformational things I've seen, where communities are changed, where there's real efforts for freedom to be pushed forward politically, economically, in every area of society, has to be with all generations. So my recommendation for any youth that are passionate about freedom and all that, I would say meet with elders, meet with older people, and look at people who have been fighting for freedom for 50, 60 years. Learn from them, walk with them. Don't just do your own thing because it's easy. Do the slow, hard work of working with a whole community, working with all generations, and listen a lot and learn a lot, because I think that is the way to a sustainable shift from oppression to freedom. It cannot happen just from young people. All that will do is just make a war between generations. But I think get involved with communities, get involved with projects that are already happening in your community, activists that are already going, and learn a lot and stay connected relationally. That's my advice to youth. There's plenty happening around you. Get involved and like serve and learn as you start to get involved in activism and in whatever you feel you should get involved in. Are you guys there?
I think they have to reconnect.
Oh, okay. I can't see anybody, but
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
so
we
I
can
guess I
go
will
to you,
start by
Joey.
myself.
Um,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think the reason why for me freedom and democracy is so important because that is what makes the world, and also that is also what makes Hong Kong different from China. So if we are losing democracy and freedom, we cannot defend freedom and democracy. We are losing our homeland. We are losing the uniqueness of the city. And Hong Kong will no longer be that international financial center where people from the world can come and exchange their ideas and mingle and express their views very freely without censoring themselves. And during the fight of defending our local Hong Kong values, we've got a lot of freedom fighters sacrificing themselves. For example, we've got Edward Leung being sentenced up to 6 years of imprisonment. We've got Ray Wong and Ellen Lee having to flee Hong Kong because of their experiences of being put under political persecution. And even during our fight last year, because of the anti-extradition bill movement, we've got countless protesters being beaten by the police. We've got over 9,000 of us being arrested, and so many of us are still living under the white terror spread by the government. And we Hong Kong people have been sacrificing a lot to defend the core values of the city, and we have to continue standing up against the Chinese Communist Party. And at the same time, staying in such a city which is very near to China, we witness Uyghurs being detained in concentration camps. We see Tibetans being banned from worshipping as they used to do before. And we can also see human rights advocates, lawyers, and journalists being charged with subversion and being tortured for years, and even with their families being monitored and followed by the Chinese Communist Party. And from our experiences and also their experiences, we can clearly understand how cruel the Chinese Communist regime is. And we know that freedom is never free. But however, we are not allowing China to destroy our homeland. And even if we Hong Kong people, or if Hong Kong is sacrificing, we're not letting China escape from the responsibilities for violating human rights. And we will be alerting the world with the experiences of Uyghurs, Tibetans, and people in China. And we will be telling the world with our first-hand experiences of how is China eroding our values, how is China expanding, and how is China infiltrating into the culture, into every aspect of countries. So it is because that we know that freedom is not free, and we know that Chinese Communist Party is a cruel and evil regime, and that is the reason why we Hong Kong people are so resilient. That is also one of the reasons why we Hong Kong people are still fighting, even with the implementation of very severe national security law, even with the very cruel and severe suppression from the party.
Oh, yeah, Joey, you finished your part, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Just now, have you mentioned about how are we going to like the youth or how are you going to persuade the other nation to go for the sanction to the China or because we are talking about how are we going to take a stand? Should we going to take a stand in this new Cold War era? So what is your point to persuade the people to join in your alliance? Yeah. People around the
Well,
world.
I think,
People around the world. Yeah, yeah.
I think after witnessing the very brutal suppression of Hong Kong, the world has become aware about the very quick and very aggressive expansion of the Chinese Communist regime. And I believe it is the responsibility and the obligation for all of us as a global citizen or as a citizen of our own country to take a stance against China. Because there is a very serious thing, and it goes like, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. And then they came for the trade unions, but then I did not speak out because I was not one of them. And then they came from the Jews, and then I did not speak out because I was not the Jews. And at last, they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. And I believe that will be the experience of all of us if we are not taking a stance against the expansion of China or other evil regimes in the world. It is a responsibility for all of us to stand firmly against any violation of human rights and the suppression of freedom or human rights. It is an obligation of all of us.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so thank you, Joey, for your sharing just now. And perhaps just a reminder to all the people who online right now, maybe you can post any kind of question that you like to ask for. I mean, you can post any question, any question that you like to ask to the panelists. Yeah. Okay. So right now we go to Ahmad. Ahmad, are you there?
Okay.
Yeah. You can start. Halo Ahmad, kamu boleh start.
Kurang jelas ya, Anko?
Kamu boleh start sekarang. Kamu boleh start sekarang.
Oke.
Okay.
Thank you. Jadi persoalan pengalaman ya, Anko. Pertanyaannya kan kenapa kebebasan itu menjadi penting untuk kita semua, ya kan?
Betul.
Ya, tentunya sebelum kita membincang kebebasan, kita perlu mencari tahu dulu apa yang menyebabkan atau sebab tidak terciptanya kebebasan dalam masyarakat. Nah, saya kira itu yang menjadi perlu dan sangat penting untuk kita ketahui sebelum kita melakukan misi pembebasan ataupun harapan cita-cita terkait kebebasan yang dicita-citakan oleh semua orang tentunya. Nah, misalnya dalam konteks negara, kita mengenal Antonio Gramsci dengan pemikirannya hegemoni, ya kan? Bagaimana mungkin masyarakat itu bisa terbebas dari situasi yang tidak disadarinya bahwa dirinya sedang tidak bebas. Nah, tapi kan tema dalam hari ini jelas, itu lawannya adalah tirani. Kalau membincang tirani, maka itu sudah jelas lawan atau posisi kita perlu melakukan perlawanan, perlu melakukan upaya pembebasan. Tapi dalam situasi masyarakat hari ini, saya kira misi untuk memberikan pendidikan pembebasan atau yang berorientasi pada kesadaran setiap masyarakat itu menjadi penting. Nah, selain itu, dalam konteks aktivis, hari ini kita melihat ada begitu banyak mahasiswa pemuda yang gerak untuk yang gemar berbicara tentang kebebasan, berbicara tentang perlawanan dan kesetaraan, tapi sangat sedikit yang berupaya untuk membentuk sebuah karya, misalnya dalam bentuk tulisan. Sebab kita sebagai individu pasti mengalami kematian yang di kemudian hari misi kita sebagai seorang aktivis akan berhenti ketika kita sudah mati kalau kita tidak membuat sebuah karya. Nah, misalnya langkah penting karena klasika juga menganggap persoalan kebebasan, pembebasan, keadilan, kesetaraan dan yang kemanusiaan itu menjadi penting, maka salah satu upaya klasika selain itu adalah membuat sebuah buku. Misalnya kemarin kita membuat buku Gus Dur dan catatan yang hilang makna, mengurai pemikiran Gus Dur, Kiai Haji Abdurrahman Wahid, Presiden keempat Indonesia, sebagai upaya untuk terus mengkampanyekan misi-misi pembebasan di masyarakat. Silakan kalau mau ditranslate ke teman-teman.
Okay. So from my understanding, just correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, Ahmad. Because you say when we say what is the freedom, and I think the most important thing is we must understand whether we are situated in hegemony world, betul tak? Maksud kita adakah kita berada dalam hegemoni yang ditentukan oleh orang lain, betul? Yeah. Yes. So we must know whether we are being shaped by the hegemony that our mind are being shaped by that, or are we know what is the position of us right now. So the second part is we should try to read more books, to read more to understanding different articles, piece of work. I mean, to at least to understand people thinking. I mean, we don't try to like being lead by hegemony, but we know ourselves. Is it because I'm something is it correct, Ahmad? Betul tak?
Halo yang ke?
Betul tak apa yang saya kata tadi? I mean, or you can, kamu boleh teruskan lah, ya.
Oke. Terkait pentingnya kebebasan dalam masyarakat kan masih yang ke?
Ya. Maksud apa yang kita boleh buat kalau kita tengah mengalami satu kerajaan yang autokrasi dan yang diktator.
Ya, langkah yang bisa kita ambil ketika berhadapan dengan pemerintah yang otoriter pastinya melakukan perlawanan Tapi kan resiko melakukan perlawanan itu kan berat.
Yes.
Ada resiko terburuk adalah persoalan kematian. Nah, itu yang banyak membuat saya kira aktivis-aktivis ini menjadi cengeng, lembek ataupun sangat cemen lah berhadapan dengan realitas ketika berhadapan dengan pemerintahan yang otoriter. Tapi salah langkah yang bisa dilakukan ya bisa juga kita menggunakan pendidikan penyadaran ke masyarakat langsung dengan mengupayakan melakukan counter hegemoni terhadap pemerintah yang otoriter, membangun wacana, membangun pandangan, gagasan tentang situasi yang tidak biasa di masyarakat. Nah,
Nah, terus kan?
Cukup.
Okay. So what Ahmad proposed is actually it's very normal when we can see if we want our opponent is an authoritarian government or is tyranny or is a dictator. Like people tends to being scared out for their oppression. But because people are afraid of that, people scared of being political persecuted by those government. And but what we can do, we can try in a different approach. We can go to the soft approach. Like at least we can try to raise the awareness among the public, like doing different activities to try to raise the awareness, but not straight away like a huge collide with those authoritarian government. Yeah. So the next untuk lepas tu, adakah kamu fikir kita kena mengambil posisi dalam apa, Cold War dingin, perang dingin?
Ya, ya.
Tahu.
Kalau posisi klasika kan jelas, di satu sisi memang sebagai pendidikan alternatif yang berbasis pendidikan pembebasan dengan upaya memberikan kesadaran ke setiap masyarakat ataupun individu, maka dalam situasi hari ini upaya untuk membangun kesadaran atau mengkampanyekan persoalan pembebasan ataupun keadilan dan yang lain-lain, kita kan berhadapan dengan dunia digital. Nah, ini yang menjadi menarik untuk saya kira untuk digarap ataupun dimanfaatkan oleh setiap masyarakat, khususnya para aktivis, membangun wacana narasi tentang keadilan, kesejahteraan, kebebasan melalui media massa ataupun media sosial yang kita punya hari ini. Nah, selain itu tentunya yang menjadi penting adalah memberikan pendidikan ataupun narasi pembebasan dalam setiap perjumpaan. Misalnya kita lagi kumpul-kumpul sedang share terkait pengetahuan, juga harus tidak hanya persoalan pengalaman, tentunya yang harus dibagikan kepada teman-teman sekalian, karena itu menjadi penting.
Oh, itu saja?
Ya, Yanko?
Ya, Ahmad, itu saja kan?
Ya.
Okay, so macam mana kamu fikir apa ke pemuda boleh lakukan dalam untuk mengubah situasi dalam politik? Mungkin kita ada banyak politikus dalam dunia. Macam mana kita akan apa ke peranan kita?
Betul. Yang bisa dilakukan tentunya dengan membuat ruang-ruang pendidikan alternatif di luar pendidikan formal yang dilakukan oleh pemerintah. Sebab kalau kita menggunakan skema Althusser, pendidikan kan tidak lagi netral, tidak lagi menjamin kebebasan setiap individu. Kampus sebagai ruang kebebasan intelektual ataupun akademik tidak lagi menjamin kebebasan tersebut. Ada begitu banyak belenggu-belenggu atau perangkap-perangkap tindakan yang tidak membebaskan secara konseptual ataupun secara praktik kepada setiap individunya. Nah, menciptakan kanal-kanal ruang-ruang pendidikan alternatif seperti misalnya kami di Klasika dengan misi perjuangannya pendidikan pembebasan yang berorientasi pada kesadaran, itu yang saya kira perlu dilakukan oleh setiap aktivis di seluruh negara. Selain itu ya tetap, karena kalau tidak ada pendidikan alternatif yang berorientasi pada pembebasan, maka visi pembebasan itu sendiri semakin jauh untuk dicapai pastinya, sebab tidak ada lagi orang yang menyadari bahwa situasinya sedang tidak bebas. Nah, itu menjadi penting. Di luar hal itu, saya juga menghimbau kepada seluruh teman-teman mungkin yang menyaksikan, menulislah, sebab apalagi yang bisa kita lakukan selain teriak-teriak di jalanan, karena menulis juga menjadi upaya untuk mengkampanyekan misi dan visi pembebasan yang ada di benak kita tentunya. Saya kira itu Yanko, kita harus terus bergerak melawan ketidakadilan dan penindasan.
Okay, terima kasih. So I will just conclude what Ahmad said just now. So actually he thinks that because especially for the formal education, the government or those who are in power, they will tend to shape your mind based on their interests, based on their political interests. Like maybe they didn't tell you the whole history, or they just tell you the history that favored them. So this is the things that formal education do. But he thinks that what we call the youngster or the young people can do is we can create all those. We can try to initiate more grassroots what we call grassroots education. and to educate more people from all around the community, that let them understand based on the perspective of what is political liberty, what is freedom, but not based on the formal education, because like what he said just now, formal education is merely just a tool for the government or those in power to shape your mind, to give to shape the history. So this is what he then to mean. Then he say we should, all of us should always fight for the justice. We should fight for the freedom, and it's a tough journey. It's a long run, but we must know what is our purpose, what is our organization aim, what is our organization purpose, in order to reach until the end. Yeah, this is what he meant just now. So so right now we enter into the Q&A session, and maybe after that we'll go out with wrap up from all the panelists. And panelists, you can just mention it. What are your advice to all the young people who'd like to join activism, or who like to join in order to change the society? What else that we can do? I mean, like in general context, or in your country perspective also okay. So but there are still few questions I would like to pose from the public. Let me pose it. Okay, one is from Carlson Stark. Is there a way for young leaders and activists able to counter the brute force of a neoliberal world where economic interests are paramount to most states, even to socialist states? I think what he meant is, because I think neoliberalism started out in 80s, right? And it's really impact a lot to the people. And in fact, it increased the gap between the rich and the poor. And even like China, even though they call them the socialist state or communist state, but in fact they are applying capitalism. So is there any way for us to counter this kind of things? Anyone can answer on this. And then there's another one. Is from Hatik. Like, would it be the best way to forward to bring the world together through movies? I find that there is no medium more impactful. Perhaps this should be something all government promote and focus on moving forward, to be directed to all. I think what he meant is, can we use soft approach to change people's mind on certain perspective? Okay, this is some of the question. Anyone can choose to answer. Anyone? Adler, do you like to answer first?
Yeah, I really would like to answer for a second question, because actually it's something I have thinking for many times, for many years, about the sense of movies and popular culture in our life. Because the reason why young generation is so united right now all over the world is that, all of us grown on the base of modern culture, pop culture, same movies and different stuff. And I think, like, many years ago, not even many years ago, let's say 30 years ago or 40 years ago, it was even hard to imagine that young people all over the globe would talk together on the internet and sharing own experience and different stuff. But right now it's very possible. And you would compare our main points we are trying to share with our people, I mean, like nationally and internationally. Actually, it is the same. Of course, we have some differences, like we have seen from the question, first one, because like the first question we got, because like of course we are quite the same as a youth, but from other hand, of course, we're a little bit different because we have different contexts and a little bit different problems. But at the same time, what is making us very united, it's like this meta level where we are really sharing the same values, the same ideas. And I think it's a really good way. And in any case, we are getting quite connected at the moment, first of all, due to this globalism, and it's very nice to have at the moment. So I think the world in let's say 20, 30 years would be completely different, because finally the generation which grew right now, I mean, like in this modern era, they would be connected and they would be in power, what is very important. And finally, people, like taking all from this new generation would lead and would change. And I think to make agreements between us would be much more easier than for politicians, old one, who are ruling like right now in America and Europe and Australia or in Asia, because we're talking about this 20th century people, but we are right now 21st century people, and it's something completely different.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. And for the question, how are we going to fight against the neoliberalism? Is there anyone can answer this? Or anyone?
What's the question? Sorry.
Okay, I pose it up again. Wait a moment. This one. Is there a way for young leaders?
Yeah, I was wanting to talk about this. I think it's really, we all know the phrase, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And I think money is one of the most powerful things, or at least the love of it. And yeah, I think when we look at movements for freedom or for anything, I think the easiest way to destroy any of their ambitions is to just give them money and power and fame. Give any of the leaders, that's one easy way to destroy someone's life or their principles or any of that, because once money is a temptation there, it's very, very common for people to be selling out their own people or all sorts of things. And so when you look at that question, I think it's very important. I love what Ahmad is doing, and I think I know lots and lots of friends of mine who are working at a grassroots personal level with people to develop a view of the world that is not controlled by money and is not motivated by money, and we don't do these things because of the money we get, and we don't do it because in the end we will get power, or in the end we will get something. That's all capitalist thinking. It's motivated by greed. And what's really vital, if we really believe in a world that will be free and a world that will have peace, we need to be building ourselves, each of us, all young people, we need to be building our character to overcome the temptation of money, and to not be driven by that, and not let money be the deciding factor in what we do. Even in the activist world, sometimes we're totally controlled by what grants we can get and what kind of funding we can get for research and what kind of things. And so we don't do things because of money. Already there, we've lost our vision. We've lost the whole point. And I think it's a really important question. And it's a question that can't be answered by politics. It can't be answered by structural change. It can only be answered by each of us looking into our own hearts and being transformed in ourselves to let go of money and let go of that as a motivation for what we do in our lives. And that's not an easy process, but it cannot be solved by programs or laws or anything. It's inside of us, whether we will be motivated by that.
Yeah, actually I agree with you, because actually if we want to do activities or we want to create some movement, but the what we call bottom-up approach, it seems like it's not impactful as the top-down approach. If you want to change the people, that we shouldn't driven by money, but we should driven by values. In this kind of sense, it's quite pathetic to see that our world right now is really depends on the value, the money that we can get, rather than the values, the intrinsic value that we can get. Yeah. So beside that, anyone want to answer for the question that been posted by our cousin just now, or you want to add on with your points that you have missed out just now?
I would like to add on a little bit regarding Zach's answer. So I think China is actually the expert of using money or using the very, very huge market, using the very huge Chinese market to collide with different companies, to collide with different like political parties in different countries. And China has been attracting or has been using the very huge market inside the territory as a reason or as a tool to manipulate the foreign policies of different countries. And many countries in the past they had been trying to kowtow to China, or they try to sacrifice their core values, or they try to size up the human rights violations happening in Xinjiang, in Tibet, or even in Hong Kong, because of wanting to secure the very huge market in China. But then, like, because of the very continuous and very effective lobbying done by different advocates and also activists, those countries, no matter that is the USA, the UK, or even some European countries, are starting to realize that they can no longer sacrifice these core values, or they can no longer size up this very significant human rights violations happening in China or assisted by China in other countries. And we are very happy to see that many countries are adding in some human rights conditions in their trade agreements with China. For example, the EU are reconsidering their trade agreements with China after the British has left the European Union, and we can see the USA reviewing their trade treaties and also the other treaties with China every year. And we think that it is very important for us to always bear this in mind and always hold China accountable regarding these kinds of human rights violations. And we are very happy to see the changes in different countries. And about the second question about how to connect the people around the world, or how to like consolidate our identity by developing soft power, I think it is very important for us to, take Hong Kong for example. We will always try our best to preserve the local culture of Hong Kong, because we feel that it is a very important part of us to help to consolidate or help to strengthen our identity as a Hong Konger. And for example, China had been establishing like Confucius institutes, and they had been trying very hard to explore the possibilities to expand their influence of their soft power. And I think it is very important for the other countries, and especially for places like Hong Kong or for the other countries, to also develop or to pay attention on, like, to prevent China from infiltrating to our society, or to like brainwashing our teens by selling their soft powers. And I think that is a thing, or that is a highlight that we should all pay attention to in terms of holding China accountable or defending the regime. Yeah.
Can I add in just really quick? I just want to say yes, like exactly. I think the way towards freedom in your context has to require activists, and not just activists, but other nations who give up monetary incentives in order to overcome. Like if you find people who actually are not worried about losing money and are willing to stand up against this regime, then what power do they have anymore internationally? You know, it really is all built on the power of money. And I think that's the essence of it is we need leaders, young leaders, any leaders who have overcome the fear of money or not having money. And I think that's why a lot of amazing movements in the world have been ones that were led by the poor. And I think the poor are often the most powerful people in our world, despite what capitalism says, which says that they are nothing. They have already hit poverty and they have nothing to lose anymore. And you see amazing movements, social movements come from the poor because they are no longer afraid of having nothing, and they end up being very powerful activists. Yeah, anyways, that's all I have to say. You're on mute, Yanki.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Oh, I mean, thank you for Joey and Zach for your comments on the question that we posted by the audience just now. And just would like to pose the question to Ahmad. Ahmad, macam mana kamu fikir pasal sebab kita sekarang berada dalam neoliberal dunia yang neoliberal, dan apa yang kita boleh lakukan sebab kita nampaknya sebenarnya negara-negara yang mengamalkan prinsip sosialis juga telah terjerumus dalam kapitalisme. So apa yang kita boleh buat sebenarnya, terutamanya dalam peranan pemuda?
Ya, Yanke.
Ya, boleh. Silakan.
Saya kira kita akan ya.
You boleh teruskan. Apa ke yang kita boleh buat? Terutamanya kita berdepan dengan dunia. Ya.
Oke. Yanke, terima kasih. Apa yang bisa kita lakukan di dunia hari ini ketika uang begitu merajalela di mana-mana, menjadi sangat ketergantungan kita terhadap uang, money dan yang lain-lain. Saya kira untuk lepas, saya kira itu menjadi susah ya. Ketergantungan itu sudah terjadi sejak dulu. Bahkan apalagi konteks negara sekarang kan termasuk Indonesia ada hutang dengan luar negeri dan yang lain-lain, itu menjadi susah untuk lepas terhadap kapitalisme dan yang lain-lain. Tapi yang bisa kita lakukan, saya kira sebagai seorang organisatoris ataupun seorang aktivis, menghadapi itu adalah yang pertama memulai dari lingkungan terdekat, yang misalnya membuat ketahanan pangan tersendiri di sekitar kelompok kita masing-masing untuk kemudian pelan-pelan melepas hasrat akan ketergantungan terhadap dunia luar kapitalisme dan uang dan yang lain-lain. Karena yaitu fakta yang harus kita terima bahwa kita mungkin tidak bisa lah lepas. Tapi yang bisa kita lakukan adalah memulainya dengan hal-hal kecil yang tetap cita-citanya harus besar. Yang memulainya dengan menciptakan ketahanan pangan tersendiri untuk kita. Gitu. Mute, Yanke, mute.
Hey, sorry. Thank you for that. I mean, like what Ahmad said just now is that it's normal to see that it's very difficult for us to escape straight away from the capitalist world. It's very difficult to see us. It's very difficult to see that happen. But the problem is we need to understand who is ourselves, who is us. I mean, we need to understand ourselves first, and we need to start it small. Like people always say, charity begins at home. Also, activism should start small. Okay, activism should start from ourselves. At least we know what are we fighting for, and we start in the groups, and slowly we try to influence with others, influence the community, and then across the nation. This is what Ahmad says just now. Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, let me ask. There's one question I think a lot of people's very concerned about Hong Kong issue. I mean, like to Joey, just look at the question. I mean, like because they said there are a lot of rules that have been regulated by the government in terms of like controlling our mind, controlling in writing or in freedom of speech. So like even in Indonesia also, right? It's a very general it's a very general question. It means then where should we find the freedom? Do you understand the question actually? Joey, do you understand the question?
Well, do you mean that
you can you read the context?
yeah,
Where
I'm
is
trying to read it.
Yeah. Where is the
Well,
freedom that lies?
I mean, freedom of speech or freedom of expression in Hong Kong was usually protected by the law and the government, and we Hong Kong people used to enjoy it in the city. But then for now, after the implementation of the national security law, it is like very greatly restricted and suppressed by the law and also by the regime, because anything that we said or anything we write, or even simply by wearing t-shirts with slogans on it, or any kinds of like vocabularies or phrases that the regime would consider as like inciting hatred towards the Chinese Communist Party or the Hong Kong government, could be leading us to the name of subversion or other crimes as listed in the national security law. So I would say for now in Hong Kong, freedom of speech and expression is no longer protected, and everything we say or everything we write are very, very greatly restricted by the wordings of the law.
Okay, understand. I mean, actually, I think this situation experienced by most of the authoritarian country. Yeah, it's a very normal case, but it's just that we need to find a way out. Like I quite agree with Ahmad, because what he said is we just start small. We start more. We try to initiate different kind of activities and influence the people and try to mobilize the people through the grassroots movement. Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, I mean, like this is the wrap up session for every panelist. So back to our question is freedom is really not free, right? So what else that we can do in order to preserve the freedom that we have right now, or what can we do more in terms of protecting our freedom? So maybe just a wrap up for everyone. We can start from Arthur. How can we do more to protecting our freedom, especially in this chaotic world right now? 2020 is a very chaotic year.
Yeah, like, I mean, in any case, we need to continue to fight. We have no other option what to do, because if we will lose our freedom, we will lose our life next, and it's not acceptable, of course. So we should be motivated. We should remember for what we are standing for what we are fighting for, and why freedom is so important. I think, I have seen some comments there. People are talking, about personal freedom and about these philosophical issues. But I mean, once the occupant coming on your land, you're understanding a little bit another point of freedom and why it's important to fight for it. So, I mean, of course, we need to fight for any aspects of freedom, but the main freedom is freedom to be yourself, it's freedom to be in your country, it's freedom to share openly your minds, and so on and so forth. So I think it's very important to be motivated and just to keep fight till the moment when you would win. So like one option I could say at the moment.
Yeah, you can add on if you are. Yeah, I mean, like you can add on later also if you want. Okay. So next, Jack, can you do a quick wrap up? Yeah.
I think I've said most of what I want to say, but yeah, I think we are touching on something really critical. I would hope everyone who's watching this live and all of who will watch it later, that my challenge comes back to that same thing we were just talking about in regards to capitalism, or being motivated by money. I think the true people that are going to make an impact in the world, and the activists who actually go the distance and go farther than just a short sprint, but they finish the race and they push through decades of challenge, and they don't give up, are people who actually give up their freedom in order to fight for freedom, that they give up the chance at a comfortable life. They give up maybe some privileges that they have in order to stand with those who don't have that privilege, and to give their voice when it costs them something, to stand up for communities who are hurting. And that is a cost. Like, that comes at a cost, and it limits the freedom you have in your life. And that's why nobody wants to do the hard work. And it's difficult to activate, is because people know that it will cost them freedom in their lives. And so it's a paradox. The true activists for freedom are the ones who give their freedom up for the cause. And I challenge all of us to be people who listen, who embrace voices you don't like. Listen to people who disagree with you. Take great effort to listen to and empower the voices of the poor and the oppressed in your communities, and that will be a great help to you in finding a way forward to find freedom in your community. And yeah, those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Zach. I think what Zach said is a very pathetic reality that happened in Hong Kong. So perhaps we can give Zoe the time to reply on this. Yeah, Zoe.
Sure. So we have been repeating so many times that freedom is not free, and we know that the road of fighting the tyranny is a very, very long journey. But then the reason why we are still standing firmly against the tyranny, the reason why we are still going on to the streets, is because that we know that freedom is not free, and we would not like our next generation or our future generations to pay the price. So that is the most important reason why people in Hong Kong, people around the globe, are still fighting so hard. And we are so glad that the world has been paying attention to what is going on in Hong Kong, what is going on in Indonesia, and what is going on in Ukraine. And we urge the world to continue to pay attention to the youth movements, the social movements, the revolutions around the world, because we are going to make a difference, and we are going to fight for the freedom that we deserve.
Okay, thank you, Zoe. Ahmad, kamu terakhir sekali, apa yang kamu nak cakap kepada semua penonton?
Oke, terakhir Yanko, terima kasih untuk waktunya, untuk teman-teman sekalian. Yang pertama, saya tentu berterima kasih kepada seluruh teman-teman Rekod Media Malaysia yang telah memberikan forum ini agar kita saling bertukar pengetahuan dan pengalaman. Sebelum saya tutup, saya ingin membincang. Saya kira diksi soal kebebasan itu juga perlu kita selidiki lagi, perlu kita memaknai kembali apa yang dimaksud dengan kebebasan. Ketika kebebasan orientasinya adalah situasi yang tertindas, dalam konteks negara pasti itu sangat kita menjadi mudah sebenarnya untuk melakukan perlawanan, sebab lawannya itu nampak dan terlihat. Tetapi pernahkah kita bebas? Itu kan menjadi pertanyaan yang menarik. Saya kira kita juga tidak pernah bebas. Misalnya sebagai individu kita dijajah oleh bahasa, ya kan, misalnya pakai apa yang disampaikan Lakan bahwa Jacques Lakong terkait petanda dan yang ditandai. Bahasa itu kan menandai makna yang mau kita tuju. Nah, bagaimana kita bisa bebas memaknai segala sesuatunya, sementara bahasa tidak pernah memberikan ruang yang bebas untuk kita menafsir segala sesuatunya. Jadi diksi kebebasan perlu kita maknai kembali, perlu kita pertanyakan ulang. baik sebagai individu, sebagai kelompok, sebagai warga negara, ataupun sebagai sebuah bangsa, kita perlu memaknai ulang diksi persoalan kebebasan. Yang kedua, yang tolong disampaikan kepada seluruh teman-teman, baik Jack, Arthur, ataupun Joy. Saya kira kita perlu merumuskan forum lanjutan guna membincang terkait kebebasan, perdamaian, dan isu-isu terkait kemanusiaan tentunya sebagai spirit perjuangan yang harus kita terus perjuangkan. Terima kasih telah memotivasi kami semua, khususnya yang di Indonesia, membincang soal kebebasan, bahwa bukan hanya persoalan di Indonesia saja situasi tidak bebas itu terjadi, tapi di seluruh dunia situasi tidak bebas sebagai sebuah bangsa itu juga terjadi. Artinya kita perlu merumuskan langkah efektif lain yang mungkin nanti kita bisa juga bincang di grup yang sudah kita bentuk untuk membincang persoalan yang lebih dalam terkait kebebasan. Saya kira itu yang
Thank
terima
you.
kasih.
So what Ahmad said just now is say freedom is a very big concept, and in fact we need to do more research about the freedom that we mean right now. It cannot cover a lot. It covers a lot of things. So he cannot straight away give an answer to it. And also he mentioned about fighting for a cause is very obvious. Like you're doing all the protests, the demonstration is very easy because people can see from outside. People can see that you are fighting for a cause, but until the end, will we achieve a cause? Will we achieve that end or achieve that cause is another question that we need to discover more. In fact, he mentioned one very interesting point that which is he said we are being colonized by the language, because he said the language that we use right now is also very limited. I mean, what we are speaking, the English right now is also we just limited to this vocabulary, but our mind also limited by all these languages. So he said perhaps in future it's a philosophical question, but perhaps in future we can discuss it more about it. And last but not least is to all the panelists. He mentioned that in future perhaps we could have more chance to make a public discourse on freedom in more detail, and also in how to fighting justice, how to achieving, how are we going to advocating human rights, how are we going to advocating the what we call the universal values. This is the things that we need to focus in future, and perhaps we can have the chance to discuss in the group later. And I mean, thank you for the panelists that attending for today's webinar. I also like to wrap up in the side of by the side of Malaysia. Actually, Malaysia also is experiencing I would say political havoc in the last few months. Especially there is a backdoor government, which means they initiate a coup in Malaysia. And with all those parliamentarians, I mean, they initiated a coup, and the current government has been oppressing the freedom in terms of freedom of speech, freedom of expression. A lot of press are being charged because of reporting some news. This is the things that we have experienced. I believe is the trend from all around the world. It's a trend from all around the world. So what I think is perhaps in future we could make more connection, the international connection with others, and especially among the civic society, the civil society organization. We should make a more connection about this, and we should in fact stand solidarity with each other. Because what we face right now is not against one government, it's not against one tyranny, but we are fighting. Is the struggle between two different values. Yeah. So thank you everyone for attending the webinar today, and we shall see you next week in a different webinar. Thank you.